Welcome, everybody, to a special interview with Mr. Dwier Brown. I know you recognize this legendary actor, especially right now, because my favorite baseball movie, my favorite sports movie of all time, as you Take Two podcast listeners know, is Field of Dreams. Right now, it's the hottest topic in both movie and sports world. Mr. Dwier Brown, welcome to Take Two podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, Brian. Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. We have a mutual friend who is like, well, I have a pal, Dwier Brown, and he wrote a book. And I was like, okay, I'd love to check that out. So I did. And I grabbed your book, read it immediately. I could not put this thing down, sir. It read so fast. Granted, biased, favorite sports movie of all time. But I absolutely adored it. Where did you get your idea? Where did you get your thought to even write down the book and put out your emotions and everything you went through with the making of the film?
Well, when the 25th anniversary was coming up, first of all, I'd always wondered, for instance, what happens when Terrence Mann goes into the corn? And, I realized that the encounters that this movie has created in my life with strangers, it was kind of something that I thought everybody in the cast was experiencing, James Earl and Kevin, and that people would come up to them in tears and tell them how much that movie had meant to them. And I guess I realized that if you run into Kevin Costner in an airport, you have a million things that you want to talk to him about, and dozens of movies that he was, really wonderful in. And same with James Earl. And talking to the director, Phil Robinson, I realized, I think because my face is the one people see at that kind of pivotal emotional moment at the end of the movie, that I was sort of having this unique experience of these kind of very deep and touching encounters with strangers. So I had been taking notes over the years when these things would happen, and I just started compiling it. And that, of course, made me think of my dad. And, we kind of had a difficult time when I was a teenager, and he ended up dying 36 days before I went to go shoot the movie in Iowa. So you can imagine how strange it was leaving my dad's funeral and then playing a father coming out of the corn to have a catch with his son. So I just started writing all these stories down and ended up kind of weaving them into a little narrative that's, part about the fun we had shooting the movie and how fun it was meeting, Ray Liotta and Kevin and James Earl and Burt Lancaster, and also stories with my dad that seemed more poignant looking back at them, 25 years later. And then also I intersperse it with these kind of wonderful and touching encounters I've had with fans of the movie who've just told me the most outrageous stories of the way that movie has changed their lives.
Incredible. And folks, when you grab this book, it's broken up into chapters about your life, the chapters about you as an actor, and that kind of leads you into how you got Field of Dreams and then actually filming on Field of Dreams. And then a chapter would be devoted to those encounters, to, people coming up to you off of the street, and they kind of rotate through. And I really enjoyed the rhythm that got into. And then each one kind of is its own book in itself, where you're following this storyline. And I was like, it really grabs you folks, and you folks listening on Take Two podcast should grab this book immediately. I did want to ask you, in the pantheon of, as you mentioned, people asking you things on the street, how many folks have just come up to you and said, you want to have a catch?
I get it a lot,
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of fun because I know, usually they say it with a smile on their face. And, if I happen to have my dad's mitt with me, which I try to take wherever I go, I'll do it. People are going to call my bluff. I'll show them. I've had catch with thousands of people over the years, and I kind of enjoy it. It's just kind of a funny. For me, it's always a touchstone for my dad. So meeting these strangers is kind of my way of keeping my relationship with my dad alive, and I think it has a similar effect on the people that I'm doing this with, and that's a pretty nice legacy.
Okay, I need to remind myself, carry my glove with me at all times in case I run into you, for that only reason. That would be the only reason. The other thing, before moving on from the book, the one scene that I thought was incredible that you described, of actually having the catch, and you grew up a baseball player and you were an athlete, and then you had to have play catch with Kevin Costner. A, nerve-wracking. B, during the shot where then the helicopter is taking off, and then they have thousands of cars of Iowans lined up in their cars coming to make that drive down the driveway, but you need to stay on point and not drop the ball. I don't know how you didn't drop the ball. And I grew up a baseball player myself, and I swear I was like, I would 100% not be able to just throw regularly. How nerve-wracking was that? How quickly were you able to just get into playing catch?
Well, what's funny is it didn't occur to me until the helicopter was ready to take off, because there was so much going on. You know, the coordination of these 1,500 cars. They were listening to Phil Robinson on the AM radio in their cars to get direction of when to start and stop. It was such a complex shot. You know, this is back in the days before CGI. You know, you could make that shot in 2 minutes, you know, if they had the technology that they do now. But you know, and then, you know, there was so many other things going on. Kevin and I had a radio, but the radio had to be taken away from the shot because when the camera went up, you could see everything. Everything had to be cleared out. So it was only at the last minute I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, you know, and the rotors from the helicopter were blowing so hard. I thought, you know, this is going to blow the ball. And, you know, I had this vintage catcher's mitt on that was like a brick. You couldn't even tell when the ball hit it. And I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, here's the father, the touching moment, this guy who used to play minor league ball, and now he's going to have a catch, and then it hits and drops. And I like,
Oh my gosh.
so anyway, fortunately, I hadn't thought of it for, you know, hours beforehand. It was just a last minute thing. But, you know, I don't know, when I watch that movie, I see how quickly I'm putting my hand over that ball, you know, like every time I threw it, it was like, whew, another one, you know.
Beautiful.
You know, and, you know, we're so far away, it probably a ball could have fallen and nobody would even have noticed it, but I didn't know that at the time. And, you know, anyway, it was nerve wracking. I played catch with my brother a billion times in our backyard and on our farm in Ohio. And, you know, it never occurs to you, you know, you're pretending to make a great play or, you know, but out there, man, I just thought, oh gosh, I'm going to look like such an idiot.
Gotcha.
If I drop this.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about the event last week, the most watched regular season baseball game in 16 years. That's insane. I thought the night itself was perfect for MLB baseball. Full disclosure, I'm a diehard New York Yankees fan, and it didn't bother me that they got stalked off on, not walked off, but stalked off on to lose the game, because just everything about that night was so magical. The opening, and they had the actual ball players coming through the corn and et cetera. How was that for you? I was paying attention to your socials. I was watching you like go through your day and get to walk around the field, just like trying to live it kind of through your shoes a little bit. What was the day like?
Well, it really was incredible for the magic that people saw on television. There was easily that much magic in person. You know, to your point, there was, you know, probably more Chicago fans in that crowd, since it's, you know, 3 hours from Chicago. Mm-hmm. But everybody, you know, like when somebody hit a home run, it felt like 3/4 of the crowd just went crazy, whether it was a Yankee home run or a Sox home run. And to me, that sort of epitomizes what was so wonderful about that game. You know, people like you and fans across the country loved baseball again, you know, just loved the game. It didn't care, you know, if they're winning or losing. And I mean, you know, I mean, it couldn't have been a better game. I mean, to have the score, you know, I'm always rooting for the underdog because I wanted it to be a good game. I didn't want it ending early, and gosh, if it went to extra innings, I would have been, you know, stoked. But anyway, then when the Yankees went ahead by one at the top of the ninth, I was like, oh my, you know, what now? And, you know, then boy, did they deliver, you know, so anyway, that to me said sort of why that game, I think, was so pivotal and watched by so many people. It was entertaining, and it was like watching major league players in a minor league stadium. Mm-hmm. And with all that kind of intimacy and you know, kind of availability was really striking. I got to go to the field the day before and kind of do a press tour of it. And, you know, that's the thing that I think the people, you know, on television missed out on was, you know, when you walk from the movie field right out center field into corn that looks just like the corn when we were shooting it. There's no paths or anything you can see. You have to walk right into the corn the way we all did. And, you know, back in the day, you walk through about 15 feet of corn, and then it opens up into a wider path. But in that path, they had these, you know, kind of beautiful lights hanging. They're playing the soundtrack from the movie, and even the, you know, the whispering, if you build it, you know, out into the corn, there's cutouts of all the players. I mean, you probably saw all this on the coverage, but it was incredibly magical to go through there. I was telling people I hadn't had that feeling since the first time I came to the movie set back in 1988.
Wow.
Driving down that driveway and seeing this perfect baseball field in the midst of this huge expanse of corn and the beautiful farmhouse. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies or favorite memories from the movie. When people ask, I know it seems kind of corny, but I'd read the book in college, Shoeless Joe, that the movie's based on. And so I'd had a lot of time to kind of build this up in my imagination, and seeing it realized in a way that was almost more beautiful than my imagination could come up with. And I sort of felt the same way about the MLB stadium, this huge complex that they somehow managed to make it feel magical and intimate. I was really impressed.
That's incredible. We can feel the magic through the television screen. I was watching with my parents. We actually watched the movie before the game, so we didn't see some of the pregame stuff because they hadn't seen the film itself in quite some time. And the movie grabbed them. They were bawling their eyes out, and then we rolled that right into the game, which then was just like, we were done, absolutely done. Did you get lost in the corn maze?
Well, I didn't even go in the corn maze.
Oh,
I
no.
have to say, I mean, I understand that a couple of the players did that. They kind of were in there for 45 minutes and not sure how to get their way out. Anybody who, like me, who grew up in corn country knows you just get in one of those rows and just follow it out, especially in that environment. Sometimes you get in a cornfield that goes on for miles, but in this case, I think you would have, found civilization pretty quickly. But there was just so much to take in, and I was, inundated with media requests and people. Most of my life is pretty low key, but there I couldn't walk 20 feet without somebody wanting to take a selfie or ask me to autograph something. And then when one person does it, there's another dozen there. And
Sure.
I tried to be as accommodating as I could. But I didn't get to do all the things I wanted to. I hung out in the stadium after the game, which was kind of great. Got to have a catch down on the field, but I missed out on the maze.
Did you meet any other celebrities, any other ball players, anyone that you were wanting to meet?
Gosh, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of. Kevin was there, and Big Papi, and Kevin Millar, and.
You're naming Red Sox here, right? You're killing me.
Sorry, man.
That's okay.
Poznansky, there's an Ohio guy for you. He's writing a new book, and I don't know. The whole thing was just spectacular. I was just. I mean, what was cool is I tried to get all my media stuff done with so I could just be a fan for the game, because
Nice.
I didn't want to be interrupted with or worried that I, was having too much beer or
Sure.
sweating too much or anything. It was just a ball.
Gotcha. That you talking about being kind of mobbed in Kinko, that kind of reminds me in your book where you were talking about how you played this big pivotal role in this huge role, this whole huge memorable character in the end. But then as an actor, you really couldn't promote it because it would kind of spoil and then give away the movie. I felt so bad for you. When I was reading that part, I was like, oh my God, it's your big break. Here's your big break. And you even have megastars, superstar actors telling you, this is it. You're going to blow up now from this. And sadly, you weren't even able to kind of promote it in the way that you could or /should.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a tough decision at the time, but it felt to me like the right decision. One thing that's sort of hard to remember, when the movie came out, there was no social media or cell phones even, that movie only was as successful as it was because people told their friends, hey, I can't tell you anything about this movie without ruining it, but you have to go see it. Just go see it. And that to me is what contributed to its success. And, if I had done anything because, when you're promoting a role, they say, well, who did you play? And if I say Kevin Costner's father, they're like, well, wait a minute, you're just 4 years younger than Kevin. How does that work? And then you got to sort of, then you end up telling the story and it's ruined. So, I don't have any regrets about that. I mean, I'm still talking about it 33 years later. And, if I had done anything that would have spoiled that, I would have that regret.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way of looking at it. I appreciate that. Did I read somewhere, two more things? I know you're super busy, and before I let you go, did you buy a building that you're renovating in Dyersville?
I did. Yeah, I strangely, I had almost a Ray Kinsella kind of moment. I was ended up visiting the field quite a bit this year with, promotional events and, with the game supposedly happening a year ago. Anyway, when I was in town, for those of you who read my book, I grew up in a 150-year-old farmhouse. I love old buildings. I kind of have gotten some construction skills because my dad forced us to help him fix up this house. And there's just this gorgeous building that the roof had kind of caved in like 5 years ago, and water and snow were pouring in. But it was a beautiful old building right just off downtown. And I kept seeing a for sale sign in front of it, and I thought, wow, somebody's got to get that building. That looks like so cool. And I kept seeing the sign in front of the place, kept coming back and back. And I at one point I had this, this vision of a little neon sign that says Kinsella's, and, kind of an animated batter swinging, neon bat and hitting a baseball off of the sign. And I was like, that's weird. I mean, I don't have any intention still of opening a bar or a restaurant there, but I just had this vision. And eventually when nobody was stepping up to kind of save this building, it was clear it was going to be demolished because there was, nobody willing to take it on. I took a look at it, and it was more beautiful than I imagined. In the basement, there's these crazy stone caverns that are 60 feet long and 20 feet wide, where they used to store beer when it was the Germania Brewing Company in 1860. This building is from 1860. I mean, when Abraham Lincoln was, running for president, it was just mind-boggling to me that this building could sit and just kind of get deteriorated over the years. So, I talked to a partner, and we ended up buying it, and we've been renovating it. Obviously fixed the roof right away, and have been sandblasting it, and we're uncovering things that I couldn't even have imagined. And anyway, we're trying to get it ready for anybody who wants to, test their dreams and make something happen in Dyersville.
That's so cool. I mean, obviously saying favorite movie, bucket list of mine for my whole life is to go and visit the movie field. If I go there next year and I show up and there's a pub that says Kinsella's, I'm going to have to hand my cart to my wife and just say, hang on, because all of our money will be lost if I walk inside this pub right now. That Kinsella's where the guy hit it. But that's brilliant. That's so cool that you're actually doing that. That's fun.
Yeah. And I think, right now it seems like, Dyersville's poised with the game coming back next year already and them announcing it. I mean, certainly, I don't think anybody could look at this past that game on the 12th as anything but a roaring success. I mean, for MLB, for the movie, for the town, for Iowa, it was just magical, and it's just what MLB needs, and just what the country needs, really, coming out of this COVID thing or going back into it. Who knows?
Sure. Hey, listen, guilty. I immediately looked up the Cubs schedule. They play at home on my birthday next year, which is this exact weekend coming up. And I was like, oh, look at that. They play home August 22nd. Maybe I can make a little birthday trip. I'm sure 1,000 other people did the exact same thing.
Well, it was fun there. There's a lot of people from all over the country, and people came. They didn't have any chance of getting tickets. You had to have an Iowa zip code to get in the lottery. And it was just, I mean, it was just so great to have so many people there. And the people who did manage to get in were grateful, and the people who didn't, I think, had fun anyway.
Lastly, before we go, I know you are doing a charity thing where you're raising a little bit of money, and you have a cereal that we can buy.
Yeah. I was approached by the people who did Flutie Flakes, decades ago, PLB Sports out of Pittsburgh. And anyway, they asked, they wanted to make a Field of Dreams cornflakes, voila. And there's a charity that I've been working with called Comfort Zone Camp that provides summer camps for kids who've lost a parent or sibling. And this gives them a place to go to have a summer camp experience, but with counselors who can help them kind of deal with all the crazy feelings and emotions that you go through that as a kid you have no place to put or to deal with. And they've done this for years. 20,000 kids have gotten to go to these camps absolutely free of charge because they've raised money, and I would like to help them do that. It seemed a perfect fit with Field of Dreams, with Ray and John's kind of estranged relationship, and
Sure.
them getting the opportunity that is fantasy, where you actually get to see your parent again and kind of heal different things that have happened. And what's great is my wife designed the front of this box, and I designed the back of it. These are all my paintings
Oh,
of
wow.
the movie site. We got an artist, Arthur K. Miller, to put a baseball card on here. Back in the day when I was a kid, we would be so excited if there was a baseball card you could cut out of the back of the box. So
Sure.
this is available in Hy-Vee stores, some Hy-Vee stores in the Midwest, and also at fieldofdreamscereal.com.
Okay.
And money's going to charity. And anyway, I think it's a great cause, and I think the cereal is kind of fun too.
That's so cool. That's a very brilliant charity to have those camps. That's all. I had never heard of those camps. That's really great that those folks are doing that. I'll share the link, of course, on our socials to try and get a few people. That's cool. You have your own baseball card too, kind of there.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, that was just sort of coincidence. I was on Facebook and I saw this John Kinsella baseball card, and I'm like, oh, that is cool looking. And this guy, Arthur K. Miller, he does baseball figures from the past, and actors kind of, and just brilliant artist. I mean, just brilliant. He works in a studio up in Maine. He's kind of a recluse, but he just churns out these beautiful paintings. And I was honored that he included John Kinsella. It's a part of a series called Baseball Cards That Never Were.
Okay.
One for Roy Hobbs, Kevin Costner, or I think it was Robert Redford from The Natural. But it's
Sure.
kind of a great idea.
That's fun. That's really cool. Awesome. One last thing is I did see they're doing a Field of Dreams TV show. Are you involved in that in any capacity?
To be honest, I heard about it just when everybody else did.
Okay.
After the game, they're talking about it. I am dubious. Over the years, I thought a million times how to, make a sequel out of Field of Dreams, and sort of come to the conclusion that it ends kind of perfectly. It asks more questions than answers, and I think part of the appeal of the movie is that everyone answers them in their own way. People have asked me, hey, does Terrence Mann die when he goes into the corn? And I'd never thought of it that way. I thought of it completely differently. And I think it's cool that people have created their own conclusions. Now, I will tell you, I was very skeptical about a major league stadium next to the field too, and they more than delivered. So I would love to think that they could create some of the magic of Field of Dreams in a regular series. So I am certainly open to it, but I'm also a little skeptical and maybe protective of the magic that movie created over the years.
I actually agree. And now we're in our podcast realm where we're talking TV movies, breaking things down. And I actually agree with you. When I saw that, I thought, oh, don't water down the movie A, and then B, I'm curious what storyline they're going to go with this. But sometimes you just got to have a little bit of faith. We have this world now that we're living in where cameos are coming back, things are being remade and rebooted and whatnot, and then you have these big huge Star Wars had a very big one last year where you had this character come back and it blew everybody's mind. I have a feeling if in like episode 5 of the Field of Dreams show, if you just show up, people will go nuts. They're like, oh yeah, John Kinsella is back, it's fantastic, and then the internet will blow up once again thanks to you.
Well, it would be an honor to be a part of it. I don't know. That movie has just created so much magic in my life that,
Gotcha.
I'm open to whatever. My life is great, but I'm open to it getting even better. I don't know how that could happen, but
Gotcha.
I'm ready for it.
Last thing I promise you that I have to ask you is, hey, do I want to have a catch?
I'd like that. Okay. Keep this. You ready?
I'm ready.